What's going on, guys? Hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day. So today we need to talk about why Palantir stock is falling after earnings, right? So I'll quickly go through like the Palantir earnings and then I'll talk a bit of why I think the stock is falling, right? So Palantir Technologies on Thursday reported December quarter earnings that missed estimates while revenue topped Wall Street targets. So first of all, I don't think Palantir, if you're an investor, you should really be looking for profits right now because they're investing everything in growth, and also stock-based compensation is really cutting into their margins, right? So what's next? Palantir stock plunged as March quarter revenue guidance edged past expectations amid a weaker profit margin outlook. So Palantir earnings for the 3 months ending 31st December were 2 cents on an adjusted basis, and revenue on a 34% increase to 433 million, the maker of data analytics software said. Meanwhile, analysts expected earnings of 4 cents and also revenue of 418 million. So you can see not that bad. They missed earnings, sure, but their revenue is higher than expected, right? So, but when you take a look at the stock, it won't tell such a similar story, right? Because when you look at the 1 day, it's down 15%, right? So, why is this? Okay, so first of all, let's walk through a backstory of Palantir, right? So you can see it direct listed here, and from the direct listing, it's up like 200% in 1 month, right? So you can see that a little bit of exuberance. So you're asking me, why does this matter now, right? Now that we're 1 year later. So we have to talk about expectations, right? So here, when it was running up here, it was because the whole market was hot. Expectations, people came in from Wall Street bets thinking this stock was going to go to the moon, thinking that there are a bunch of magicians in this company, right? And also bidding up software companies, especially, right? So you can see that it went up around 300%. At the peak, I think it's like 400+%, but just for a day, right? And after that, you can see on the 1 year, it's just been down, right? So first of all, expectations. What were the expectations baked into this earnings quarter? So 4 cents of earnings. So they missed that. And currently, we have to take note that this is beginning to feel rather like a bear market, because everything, no matter how good your earnings are or how bad your earnings are, I can guarantee you in a bull market, right? If the earnings were just like this, right, people would just say, oh, the stock is moving up because of good revenue growth. But now the stock is down 15% in a day just because the EPS missed, right? And it's not even an EPS story yet. So now you can see that from here, the expectations were that they're going to go up, but they just went down, right? So I can just say that that's the first reason, right? Expectations. Too much expectations were baked into this stock. And the second thing is, anyone that bought here, right, is not a real investor, right? So they could have been traders or speculators, right? Because first of all, no one would buy like the company at 40 something dollars, right? Because that is a way too high valuation, right? At that point, it's around $100 billion market cap, right? And $100 billion market cap with what, $1.5 billion in revenue, that just doesn't make sense, right? So what were the expectations? The expectations were that it's gonna do a GameStop, right? And basically, do this, right? Yeah, do like 26x in a few days or something like that, right? So because they expected a short squeeze or whatever it is, that's why it even pumped up here in the first place, right? If you do enjoy the video up to this point, do help me smash up the like button, hit subscribe, and also hit the bell button. So the first part of the video is basically some headlines and also some reasons why I think the stock is falling, right? So if you do want to dive in deep into the financials, you might want to stay for this part of the video. If you don't, no hard feelings. And yeah, let's get into it. So now we have to look at like some of the basically the consolidated financials, right? So total revenue grew 34% to 433 million. Commercial revenue grew 47% year over year. So US commercial revenue, this is a really good thing, right? US commercial revenue growing at triple digits, right? Because the government revenue is not sustainable, right? Governments, and especially government's revenue, is very lumpy, as Alex Karp said in the earnings call. Means it might come like 1 quarter, maybe you get 1 billion in contracts, and the next quarter you get 200 million, right? So that's a very big, like, investors don't really like that because investors like consistency and also predictability, right? So added 34 new customers. So loss from operations of $59 million, representing a margin of 14%, up 3,500 basis points year over year and 900 basis points sequentially. So I think sequentially is for the quarter. So adjusted income from operations 124 million. So you look at the margins, margins are pretty good at 30%. Cash from operations of 93 million, representing a 22% margin, right? So let's take a look at the most important thing, right? So free cash flow, right? So in my opinion, free cash flow is what I use to value companies. It's the most important thing to me, right? So when I see a company with negative free cash flow, I usually can't even know how to value it, right? So it's very hard to value free cash flow negative companies, right? So let's look at the valuation now, right? Because you can see that in the past that I have used in the past I have used 450 million of free cash flow for 2021. So now when the actual numbers come out, right? So I can use the actual numbers and then I use the growth rates, right? And you can see that it's set for a 25.12 billion market cap. I will buy this company, right? Buy the whole company. And I use a 20% discount rate, right? So what that tells me is basically from this point onwards, I can expect 20% on my investment if I buy it at a $25 billion market cap, right? So if you do want to take a look at the old free cash flow calculations, right, I'll link it on the top right. So I made a video about this, right? So just take a look at the cash flow. So personally, I didn't change the growth rates because I expect the growth rates to maintain, but I did change the cash flow, right? So the free cash flow, and you can see that when I change the free cash flow, go and take a look at the video and take a look back at this video, right? You can see that the buy range is different, right? Based on different information, right? So when the information change, we have to adapt with it as well, right? So we don't just hold on to our old projections and basically be stubborn, right? So if you can take a look at Palantir stock, right? It's sitting at a 23 point something billion market cap, right? So I can expect even more than 20%, right? But again, these are just expectations. Of course, whether they can execute on their mission and everything they said they would is a different story, right? So let's say, let's see the total year. So total year, revenue grew to 1.5 billion, right? 41% year over year growth. US revenue grew 53% year over year to 879 million, right? So where am I getting all these numbers, basically all the growth rates? So is it I'm just pulling it out of my behind, or do I have some basis? So let's look at expectations. So for Q1 2022, we expect this, you can read through it, 443 million in revenue, adjusted operating margin of 23%. So that's a falling operating margin, so maybe not so good. So for the full year, we expect adjusted operating margin of 27%, so closer to the 29% that was there just now. So per long-term guidance policy as provided by our Chief Executive Officer, we expect Alex Cup, we continue to expect annual revenue growth of 30% or greater through 2025. Right? So actually, this is quite reaffirming to see, because even though if you don't know, their growth has been slowing down, right? Because maybe less less government contracts and all, right? But Alex Cup is still quite confident that they can achieve growth of 30% or greater, right? So I personally see this as well, because they are just now hiring a lot of sales staff, right? And I think a big problem with this company is basically they build software that people don't know they need, right? And it's like if someone doesn't know they need something, right, no matter how many times you tell them it's good for them, right, it's like your dog or something, right? You're trying to feed your dog medicine, but it constantly spits out the medicine because it tastes so shitty, right? So think of it that way, right? These companies are like the dog, right? The owner is basically trying to feed the Palantir software. Oh, take this medicine, and the companies are like, oh, I don't want this medicine. It doesn't taste good. And because they don't know, like, basically the doesn't taste good part is maybe, oh, your software is so expensive, we don't know what it will do for us, right? So yeah, I think all along, that has been a big problem with Palantir's product, right? You're selling something that people don't really know they want, right? So going back to the dog analogy, most of the companies are basically spitting out Palantir's software, right? Because they don't understand what it can do for their business, right? So personally, I'm not gonna act like I know everything or whatever it is, but I think Palantir software is really good because from what I heard from my research and what I've studied, right, all the companies that use it have very positive feedback, right? And that's very good for shareholders to understand, like, what is like going on, right? Because let's be honest, like, all of us shareholders, we look at this software, we don't know how good or how bad the software is because we'll never get the chance to use it because we don't run huge companies, right? Unless like maybe you can watch like CodeStrap or something. He's a developer on YouTube and he talks a lot about in-depth technical stuff about Palantir. So yeah, let's be honest with ourselves. Most of us will never use it. Most of us don't know how good the software is. We can only rely on all these people who actually use the software to tell us like how good the software is, right? So apparently Airbus is one of Palantir's, basically they use Palantir software and they reported a record profit, right? So of 4.2 billion despite corona pandemic. So yeah, nearly said that word. I don't know whether I can say that word or not, and it might trigger the algorithm or something. But basically, you can see that someone that's using the software is really doing really well, right? So maybe this is a bit of a good sign for us, right? I don't think you can attribute everything to the software because basically software is not magic, right? You can't just say that, oh, just because you use this software, that's the reason why, right? I'm sure there's multiple factors, right? Because maybe better management, better supply chain management, or whatever it is, right? But I think the software has at least a big role to play because I heard that the software cut down production time by about 53%, right? So I think that's quite incredible, right? So to summarize, one, Palantir stock is falling because they fell short of expectations, and two, we are possibly in like a bearish kind of market right now because everything, no matter how good or how bad the news is, if it's good news, the stock rallies a bit, and if it's bad news, the stock falls a lot, right? So I think that is quite showing us that we are in a bear market. And number three, I think Palantir's a lot of their forward-looking guidance is still very good for shareholders because they're still keeping on the stance that we can continue to do what we say we'll do, right? So yeah, that's about all I wanted to share today. If you did enjoy the video, do help me smash up the like button, hit subscribe, and also hit the bell button. With that being said, have a fantastic day and peace out.